Morning, everybody. We may have a few more people joining us in a few moments, but obviously as we're just slightly over 10 o'clock, I'd like to get started. So hello and welcome to our Opera 3 Forgotten Functionality course for Pegasus Opera 3. The aim of today is to really go through some of the areas of the system that people maybe don't utilise as much as they should. For example, easy ways of emailing statements and remittances, making purchase ledger payments, the cash book matching and POP order satisfier, just some examples of those. For those of you who don't know, my name's Rachel Gray. I'm the Technical Services Manager here at HBP, and I've been here for 10 years working on the Pegasus desk as well. So hopefully we'll get a few questions answered today, as well as refining some of those processes that you may already use. Now, just as a reminder, there is a chat facility as the mute option is on hold on this webinar. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to post those in the chat today, and I will answer those as soon as they're seen. So the first area I'd like to start off on is the emailing statements and remittances. Now that uses the system automatically to email a specific contact in the sales ledger, the statements and obviously the contacts in the purchase ledger, the remittance advices automatically from the system in one batch. Now, in order to set this up, the first thing we need to do is we'll have a look at statements and we'll have a look at the sales processing screen. Now, straight away on the front screen, we have an account contact email address and also an order contact email address. So the account contact email is used for invoicing and statements, whereas the order contact is used for the deliveries and the orders. So it's the account contact we're going to focus today. So one of the first prerequisites to set up the email statements is to ensure we've got a valid email address in this box for the account contact. The account contact name can also be populated as well. There is a character limit. However, if there are two short email addresses, you can use a semicolon and also add a further email address into that box. Once you've then added the email address, we then need to save the record. And from there, if we go into action and options, just double checking all of the areas here are available and that we do want statements to be created, which is the print statement box here. Now, if that is grayed out, it's because in this case we're using a profile that's set up in the system. Now, it might be that your profile may not have this box on. You can tick the use custom profile, of which you can see all those boxes then come available. And this is where, just as a refresher, your currency is set for the customer. If there is a default bank account, that is set in here, as well as the VAT code, and also potentially a different control account for the customer as well. And that's often used in times where the currency is different. Once you've changed those options, I'm going to switch mine back to the standard profile and select OK. We can then go to Action and Terms. Now in here we have our email area, and as you can see there's many other options in here other than statements, but for this option I'm going to tick the statements, and what I'm saying is that for this account I wish statements to be emailed. You do have options for pro formas, invoices and credit notes on this account, and that's for it to default to the email address, so they're not an automatic batch, but when publishing those designs it will automatically default to the email tab in order to send those out. Once my email statement is selected, I'm going to select OK, and I'm going to save that record. And it might be that we do the next record as well. So again, on our new record, confirming we have a valid email address. Under Action and Options, we're checking that print statement is in use, and this it isn't. So I'm actually going to untick Custom Profile, and as it is a Euro account, I am going to set it as a Euro trader. And then under Action and Terms, we're going to select that statements are available as well and save the record. So from that point, it does show you that it's not every single account that needs to have the email functionality switched on. So if there are those customers that do wish to receive their statements via post, that is not a problem at all. They can be separated, so you can add those options to any account that you are using. Once that's been created, within our debtors reports, we then have statements. So on our front screen, the sequence is purely the order in which they'll be printed. So we've got account, region, territory or type. And then we also have account as well. So if it's So it might be, for example, I just want to print my first 2, but what I am going to do is do them all. Do have some extra options here as well. Now, suppress debt is if current. So if the debtor's value is only in the current period, it will mean that won't show on the statement. And advanced transactions as well. So if you're using advanced transactions, which means we may be posting as at today, but we're actually dating it for the next period, as standard, those transactions don't show. So if you do wish those to show, that option does need to be selected. What we then have is 3 options. Now, the all hard copy is essentially overwriting any of the settings that we've set so that every single statement does print out as paper as a physical copy. The second 2 options are then where we can refine it. So hard copy only will specifically only print the statements where those options we've just set on our 2 customers are not set. So those that we haven't defined any email addresses and settings. The email only, as you would expect, is then only just for those accounts that require email only. So it's a nice separation in terms of not having to print out every single one. It's obviously saving paper and possibly saving time as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my email only and select OK. Automatically, as you can see, it defaults to our email address. And so these options are advising the location where the file that's going to be created will be stored. Now that is the default location, so unless it's really specifically required, I advise not to change that. The default file name will then be the statement and the dates going out to the customer, as well as the subject here. And then we also have the body of the text that's automatic. If I hit publish, I'm in as admin at the moment, so the designer isn't something yourselves would see. But what that will automatically do is automatically email out. So as you can see, it's going through my email settings with me being on a demo system. And unfortunately, because I apologise for that, my settings are not enabled. It has closed Opera because it can't automatically switch to the next routine. But what that will do is, obviously with Outlook not enabled on this PC, it will email those statements automatically. Now those statements do still use mapping, so therefore what it's going to do is going to send the statements out as the physical email profile that is logged onto the PC where these statements are run from. Once that's run, we can then go back into our debtors reports and into statements, and we could then potentially run the hard copy only. What this will do is print out in our design all of those accounts that don't have the email setting. So as you can see, our Adams Light Engineering is not one of those. And once we've finished, that's our statements run. So hopefully that shows it's a nice, easy setup process in terms of enabling those options for our email statements. Now it's the exact same process for our purchase ledger. So on our purchase ledger, we do have the account contact and the order contact. So the account contact is the one that we need to define for our statements and invoices. Under action and options, we can then ensure that the remittance advice tick box is enabled to say that you do wish remittances to be created for this customer. And then under action and terms, we then need to specify that we are actually emailing out the remittance advices. Once those settings are set, the exact same process is relevant with regards to going into reports and then selecting remittances. What I'm sure you've all seen is once we've selected our options, so they're the same again, all hard copy will override all the settings, hard copy only will only print those to hard copy set, and email only will only email those that have got an email address. If I just say all hard copy as an example, and I'm going to publish this to screen, what we will get is, and that's because remittances will clear down each time they use so that only the latest transactions are showing on the remittance advices. So I would only recommend to select yes once you are happy that all the emails have sent out and there aren't any additional copies of anything that you needed to print. Oh, apologies for the voice breaking up intermittently. Can everybody hear me now? Susan's just advised that it's not the greatest line. If there are any problems with the sound going forward, please do let me know, and I will amend some of the settings on here. So on my remittances, I am going to say yes to being successful. And once we close out, that will mean that that report and remittance layout no longer prints for those transactions. So that's emailing our remittances and statements. So the next is then making purchase ledger payments. And what we've found as well is it's possibly not an area of the system that's used very often. Now, the payments process within the purchase ledger allows us to run a number of routines when it comes to ensuring that we are selecting the right payments and seeing what is available. Now, if we actually just have a look under utilities and set options, we can see here we have an option for accounting periods. So this is based on, are we actually running our accounting periods on monthly, 7 days, 14 days, 28 or 30? And that defines how it actually breaks down when invoices are due based on monthly or 7 days or 14 days, and then using the payment terms in with that as well. I'm going to keep that for monthly, and it's just a note to bear in mind that that function is there if you are using slightly different accounting periods. Once we're then on the system, so within the purchase ledger, what the system will look at is based on the terms. So for example, here we are a number of days after our invoice and we're 30 days after the date of invoice. That will actually allow the system under payments and suggested payments to advise all of those areas of the system that are ready to be paid based on the payment terms. So as we can see on here, based on the bank accounts you're also using as well. So that's the default bank account selected for each ledger account. You can choose to specify one or all of them. Now, I know in my system, the main account is the default, so that's where all of my payments go as standard that I'm going to be looking at today. So I'm going to keep my main current account set. We then have processing date. So that is also going to then look at, based on today's date, what invoices are due for payment. So if you are wanting to look in the future, I would always advise to slightly increase that date potentially. To ensure anything slightly a few weeks in the future can be seen as well. We then have sequence. So again, that is really how we want that sequence or list to show. So we have account or type. We then also have the settlement discount terms to calculate due date. So what that will do is automatically look at any customer who we've set a settlement discount on and apply the due date based on those terms. So if we'll settle 10% less if they pay 10 days before the due date, that will then apply the due date and reduce it by 10 days. We also have currency. So if it's only the sterling currency you wish to see, that can be set. I'm going to keep mine as all. And then we have the payment methods. So the two standard payment methods within the purchase ledger are checks and backs payments. Other can denote cash, for example, or direct transfers, but the system will automatically create check and backs layouts in order to send those to the bank and also print them out. I'm just going to concentrate for this run just on the backs payments. So I'm going to untick these two options. And then we have the suppliers. So again, in the same process, that can be limited to a set list of suppliers. I'm going to select OK. And what that will do is that will publish me a report with all of the transactions that are due. And we also have reasons. So what we can see is based on when this was due by, are they overdue? Is there potentially a payment and a refund on there that is unallocated? So therefore it may need to be allocated to an invoice. And if we scroll down and through the pages, we can also see any more and also the grand total. Now that is purely just a report for yourselves on what is due. Once you now have that report, you can then move on to the next stage, which is the authorised checks or the authorised backs. So if we have a look at authorised backs, what that's going to do is based on when we posted. So I'm going to change my date and also a nominal posting date, just previously saw and allow me to select if I do wish to pay them or not. Now, as you can see from my accelerator keys, which are all options under the action menu as well, we have a number of options. If I wanted to pay all, I can select the F8 Pay All button. And as you can see in this column, it changes them all to a yes. If we scroll down, we can see they're all set. If there's only a few that you wish to choose, we can then also say we want to cancel a line, and automatically, as you see, that changes it to a no. So you've got full flexibility of what you wish to pay. Ledger accounts within the purchase ledger also. So back into payments, once I've authorised my backs, I then may want to create my backs file. Now, before we go forward, as you can see on the backs file, it's automatically set to HSBC. Now, that's because of my default settings, which are found within the purchase ledger utilities and set options. In here, Pegasus has a number of different backs layouts available to choose from, and these are all defined by Pegasus with the relevant banks, so they're fully compliant with the banks and the links that are required. The later ones are the standard 18 that many new banks do use, and I'm going to change mine to standard 18 and select OK. If I then go back into payments and create backs file, we can now see my backs payment software has changed. We can also see the bank account that we're going to post these payments to, and we can also see the value date. If I select OK, because of my settings, it requires an ID. And there we have all of the backs files and the backs listings that we selected to authorize available to add. Now, it might be at this point, because as we know it does happen, we may need to cancel one of these payments. So while we're on here, we do have the option to highlight the line, and as you can see under our accelerator key, which is again an example of what's under the action menu, the option to untick or delete. What the untick will do is the untick clear all will set them all as no, which then allows you to use the space bar as we can to go down and specifically select those you wish to include in this backs file. Now, if I click this again and we say we want to see yes, it may well be that one of these payments just should not be on the system. And at that point, you can use the F4 delete. Let me untick that before we do. Now, what that will do is that's going to completely remove it off this backs file. So therefore, it's no longer going to show as available. And that would mean it would possibly be a manual payment you then need to post if it comes up in a few months or a few weeks that then is due for payment. I'm going to say OK to my list now and say yes to create the backs file. Now, what that will have done is within the background of Opera, in my data, if I change it to date modified, I will have a file in here for our plbacks.out. Now, that is the automatic file created for the backs file, and that's also the location that you'll be browsing to based on obviously your server and installation to then select that file in your bank link to then post it across. It is not editable, and I do not advise anybody open that file because it can change the format. If you do have any doubts, feel free to call the support desk and we can always investigate the file for you to see what's available. Once that's created, back into our purchase payments, the next step would then be the backs list. And what this is essentially doing is compressing our process, then posted that back, and therefore clearing those lines out. And as we can see, all those transactions that we posted are showing. So it's a confirmation of what we've just posted. Once we're happy, we can close the report and it confirms if it's printed OK. So very much like the statements and remittances, if you select OK, it's going to wipe that list out. So it's making sure that this is done on a monthly basis. Otherwise, you can end up with a file with multiple months worth of data in there. All of those payments will now have been posted to the purchase ledger. So if we have a look at our reports and payments and adjustments file, can have a look at today's transactions. All of those payments have now automatically been created, and they will automatically have been allocated to the invoices relevant as well. Now, the exact same process is also for the authorised checks. The screen is identical in terms of what we're processing. The slight difference is in how we want to print the checks. So these designs can be changed based on the requirements of yourselves. So potentially your check format, if you have a printer that will allow you to print onto those checks automatically. Ourselves on support can amend these for you to ensure they fit. So I'm going to authorise some of our checks. And under our payments, we can then go to our print checks. Now I am going to untick some of these because I also want to have a look at the check and remittance options as well. So we'll pay the bottom two. It allows us to print an alignment check because obviously we don't want to be wasting any checks on an incorrect print. So I would always advise, if you are running a batch through the printer, that this is selected to allow you to confirm that it will print successfully. At my point, as I'll be printing it to a file, I'm going to say no. It confirms what our first check number is of this batch. Select OK, and I'm going to publish mine to screen. So what it'll automatically do, and again, we can amend this format and also the breakpoints in it, is it'll print out those checks with the relevant information. If we say yes to print OK, it then clears those out of the system. Now that same process could be run with a remittance at the same time. So if we have a look at our print checks and remittances, again, I now have the 3 transactions previously available. And what this will do is, as well as the remittance, so it's confirming the payment, we also then have the check for that payment as well, all on the same screen. Sue, just confirming we're still having problems with the volume and the voice. Is anybody else having any problems at all? Okay, if you can bear with me just a moment, I'm just going to change a few settings and see if we can get that sorted. How does that sound for everybody? Great, well, we will continue on. Appreciate the feedback. So if anybody has missed anything, just let me know and I will go. Right, so going forward then, so just a recap. So this is then printing our statements and remittance. So the remittances are now printed, and we can see at the bottom of the remittance, it's also printing the check. So depending on how your stationery is set up, that will allow it to run as required. Once we've printed those, we can then close the report. And again, we get the same option, has the print been successful? And again, if you say yes, it will clear those payments down so they do not appear on the same routine on the next time. And that is the key point, is ensuring that if you are selecting yes, it is due to you being ready to clear down those so they're not available on the next report. Once you've done that, we then have the checklist. So the exact same process as the backs. It then confirms all of those payments we've made. So it includes all of those files that we generated. And again, confirming if the print's okay. Now, again, at this point, please confirm that everything has printed successfully, all of the backs. If you are running the backs, print has gone through successfully before you clear them out, because this is the final stage that is going to post these payments onto the ledgers successfully. And that is the purchase ledger payment. So I would possibly say many people are using this option, but I always feel it's great to just confirm what the settings are, the way it works. So has anybody got any questions on that area at all? Great. Well, what we'll do then is we'll then move on to the cash book management. These two options are very much housekeeping in terms of if we've got transactions we don't want to appear on our reconciliations and progress onto invoices, it allows us to clear them down. Oh, thanks for the note on that, Charlotte. If you bear with me again, I'm just going to try and Hi, I've just changed a few more things again there, so thank you very much for bearing with me on that. Again, apologies for the issues caused there, and hopefully it won't happen too many more times. So we will move on to the cash book matching and purchase order satisfy. So under cash book in our processing screen, there may be the times where, for example, we've used the sales and purchase ledger rectify allocations to remove a payment or a receipt. Now, in that case, what will automatically happen is the cash book will post the relevant reversing transaction. And I would imagine most people do not want that to show on their reconciliation, obviously because it's messy, it's actually not a true transaction because it would have never appeared on the bank. That is what the cash book matching process is for. So if we have a look at our cash book processing screen, under view, I'm going to have a look at our unreconciled allocations. And it's just to bear in mind that you can only match transactions that are unreconciled. If they've been previously reconciled, they're not available to be matched. As you can see in here, I've got quite a current cash book line on the processing, and we've got a number of transactions, as you can see, that potentially shouldn't need to be there. One of which we've got a back sales receipt and a back sale refund. Now, if we close that and go into action and reconcile, as you can see, those transactions are actually showing on the reconciliation. So let's match those off and make sure they're not available. To do that, I'm going to cancel out of my reconciliation screen and go to action and matching. So what this will do is show all transactions that are available to be matched. And I'm going to scroll down to those transactions we saw for £120. And on here, it's the space bar, as we can see on the accelerator key, to choose the transactions, and it puts a small X next to the line. Now, the balance must add up to 0 before you can close this screen, because we can't match something against a transaction that isn't the same value or a multiple transactions that do not balance to 0. So these two transactions, I'm going to select OK. Now, as it's confirming, any matched entries cannot be unmatched, so this process cannot be reversed. If there are any problems, please feel free to contact support. So if we now go back onto our action and view screen, we'll have a look at our unreconciled transactions, and those transactions, as you can see, are no longer there in the screen. If we, however, go back in and have a look with the option to show removed items selected, we can now see those £120. And if we scroll across to the right-hand side, we've also got our little R column confirming that they have been removed. If we close and then go to action and reconcile, just to show on there that those transactions are no longer available as well. So for audit purposes, they're still going to appear because they were valid transactions that were posted. They're also going to post through to the nominal, but it's ensuring that the cash book is cleared so when we're reconciling, we don't have any strange transactions on there that should not be available, to make sure that what we're balanced into the bank account is truly correct. If we cancel out of there and cancel out, that is the cash book matching process. So just as a recap, the transactions have to balance if we are matching them, and the process cannot be reversed, but it's a great housekeeping tool if we've got those rectitudes well resistant. That is actually the purchase order satisfy. So I'm going to open my supply chain management and purchase order processing. So on this screen, what we potentially have is orders that haven't fully been delivered, potentially because the goods are never going to be received. So therefore, what we don't want to have are incomplete orders on the system forever showing on our reports. So what I'm going to have a look at is this line here. So if we go to action and we can view the lines. So on this line, we've got a quantity of 4 engine oils and 20 electronic travel cool boxes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a receipt for this line. And I'm actually going to deliver only a part quantity. So I'm going to have all 4 of the engine oil options, but I'm only going to say we're going to receive 8 of the cool boxes. Now, automatically, it'll actually ask, is this line complete? And so at this point in time, it may well be I'm expecting the other 2. So I'm going to say no to that and then select OK. Now, what that will do is potentially aren't completed. So we can see on ours, if we have a look at our system, so we've got our engine oil 10 litres on a different purchase order, as well as our electric travel cool box on a different purchase order. So all of the purchase orders that are currently outstanding are showing on this list. Now we can see on here if there's an X in it that it has been delivered, and also if it's at the invoice stage where the PIR has been posted. So it might well be for the total of our electric travel cool boxes, I am not going to be delivering any more. So I can actually select that as delivered and also confirm that line as invoiced. So POR 384, we can also do the same to the invoice at here, the engine oil 10 litres. And our POR 384 was order stroke delivered, you can now see is fully completed. And the reason being is because I have cleared the cool box options to say we will not be receiving any more. And because I don't actually intend to invoice it, it's actually completed because I've told both lines to be invoiced. Now, the good thing is this can be reversed. So if we go back into Satisfy, if we have got a line on here where it has been delivered, we can remove that delivery. The same as if we have got them on PIR, the PIR matching is in place. We can't remove it if it is in the PIR line, but again, if it hasn't been delivered, we can remove that delivery. Select OK and update the purchase order lines. Now, really what this routine is for is to, again, housekeeping. So if we've got lines that we're never going to receive the full goods for, so we have no intention to deliver, and we have no intention to invoice, selecting that will complete the line. And the reason being is because then if we want to clear down this module using our reorganize routine, it will only look at lines that have been fully completed. Therefore, it won't remove any that are part delivered. So it's a great routine, maybe 6 to 12 months to look through the system at older transactions that are not set to fully completed to actually see if you are ever intending to deliver or invoice those. Questions on that purchase order satisfy screen at all? Great. Well, that actually nicely brings us on then to the reorganizations. And again, one of the reasons for the satisfying is so that we can run our reorganize. So what I'm going to do is within purchase order, utilities and reorg. This is the option that again will allow us to then clear down those completed lines. Now, what this is not doing is it's not affecting in any way the purchase ledger. So once a transaction within both SOP and purchase orders have been posted as an invoice, it will post a separate transaction and a separate image of that document to the purchase and sales ledger. But the purchase order and sales order process areas can get quite data heavy because of the amount of information that's on there from creating the original transaction. So this is a great routine to speed up processing if there's a lot of historical data in these two modules. So before I actually go along on there, Before we go along on there, we're going to actually have a look at the purchase order processing line and see what dates we've got. So as we can see, we've got a number of completed transactions on Carter's Limited dated pre-September 2017. So it may well be that I want to affect everything based on the 1st of November 2017. Now what that will do is it will remove all of the lines before that date and keep anything that hasn't been fully completed. If we go into purchase orders, utilities and reorganise, I'm going to set my date as the 1st of November 2017. And my reorganise is completed successfully. Now with this being the demonstration data, it's quite small data. So if you are a large processing company with a number of transactions in this area, the reorganise can take a while to run through. So I would recommend that it's done potentially towards the end of the day and always after a backup has been run. Now on that process as well, all users do need to be out of the system. So as we can see now in our system, we no longer have any completed lines dated pre-November. So we've got delivered and we've got invoiced, and on here where it's completed, the issue will be is that the PIR has not been fully completed. So it's only showing lines that have physically something outstanding, and all those previous lines have been cleared up. So it's a very quick way of running a routine on the system to clear down transactions. Now the same process on sales order processing reorganise, but what we have is a few extra options. So as well as having our from and to account and also delete transactions prior to, we have 3 different options. So the recalculate order balances on this financial processing screen is actually our balance for order balance here. So if there are any issues where we need to recalculate that balance, we can run the reorganise. Now the reorganise doesn't have to run with valid dates as such. So if we go back into supply chain management, utilities and reorganise, it may well be that I set my date to something that would never hold any transactions, so back to potentially 2000. But that still allows me to then recalculate my order balances. It will also, any sales orders, complete any description only documents, where there has been no physical stock to deliver or invoice. And also cancel any unposted purchased requests already invoiced. So if we are using back-to-back processing, which will allow us to raise a purchase order on the back of raising a sales order, if the sales order was then invoiced prior to those goods being delivered, it will cancel that purchase order request. Select OK. As we can see, it's purging the invoices and that routine is completed. So again, a great routine for clearing up the data. There's only 2 further options I'd like to go through with you today. And the next one is actually back on our sales and purchase ledgers, and it's with regards to the contact processing that we have in these areas. So as we discussed earlier, we've got the account contact and the order contact on screen. But within Action, we've got an option called Contacts. And what this allows us to do is really keep an address book of any other contacts for the accounts that you wish to know about, and also potentially a few attributes that might be useful knowing, possibly for the prospecting and opportunity process. So automatically, our order contact and account contact are transferred through. But we also have another contact in here, Josephine Walters, who is a completely different contact and it's classed as other. Now we can create as many contacts in this area using the create new icon, and I'm going to add myself. So Rachel. My title. Position, potentially birthday if you do any campaigns around the birthdays of your clients or important clients and directors of the companies. And we also then have the phone, the fax, the mobile and the email. These are all areas that we can keep as well as attributes. So it may well be that we are part of a management team. We are also a sales contact and potentially an accounts contact as well. So this allows you to define different areas that are available so you know who it is you're potentially speaking to. If we save that record, I am now available as a contact on that screen. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't allow me to run any emails, but it does really allow us to keep an address book and just a list of the important contacts for those sites. Now, for GDPR purposes, obviously, if there are any elements of this system that you are using for contacts, we do have a utility available that will clear down contacts and have a look at how long they've been available and if they're in use. Because obviously for GDPR now, we do need to clear down any data that's not necessary for the processing of the business. If you do require any further information on that area, please do let me know. The same screen is also available on the purchase processing. So if we go to Action and Contacts, as you can see again, we've got a number of different contacts on the screen, and we can hit Create New to add additional. And that's available on each account within the sales and purchase ledger. With regards to the attributes, they are also available to amend. So what we can actually have a look at is under Maintenance and Contacts for the sales ledger processing, we have a list of our attributes. So these can really be anything that you wish that will be relevant to know about those contacts. And while that screen's open, we can hit the Create New icon and add new codes. And they can be, again, as many as you need. So it can be very much tailored to some specific information that you do need to keep on those people. The exact same area is also available within the purchase ledger, maintenance and contacts. And that finally brings us on to our last option, which is actually with regards to updating the nominal. Now, as most of you are aware, the automatic update of the nominal is done via the nominal transfers within financials, nominal utilities, and we have our ledger transfer. There is an option for is a real-time update of the nominal. So really no longer needing those transfer files. As soon as a transaction is posted, a journal for that individual transaction would be posted through to the nominal ledger. Now, before we set that option up, you must ensure that there are no transfers waiting within any of these, which I've done earlier, but we'll have a look and double check what we've got. So I will change my system date based on the open period I am operating in. Within utilities and sales ledger transfer, we can confirm if we've got any transactions waiting. And I shouldn't have, which is great. So we'll have a look at utilities and the purchase ledger, and again, check the same. So once we're happy there's nothing left to transfer, we can then amend the system to allow the real-time update of nominal. So into administration, under maintenance and company profiles, the company that you are physically active in will be the automatic company that's displayed. If you do have multiple companies, they will be listed in the list option. So when you're on the selected company, select the options tab. And these are really the main settings within the whole company. So which nominals and ledgers link to which. And as you can see on here, we have a tick box for the real-time update of nominal. So it's actually telling us that there are nominal records to transfer, and it looks like the payroll and stock needs transferring first. So a great use of the flags to ensure that you aren't able to change anything that may well cause problems in the data. So if we go back onto financials, utilities, and I will run my transfers. So all the journals are now being posted, the nominal has been fully updated, and because I've got open period accounting switched on this system, it's actually allowing me to post my future journals as well to all of the open periods I have available. So now we've changed those settings back into administration, maintenance and company profiles, ensuring you're on the correct company. We then go to options and tick the real-time update of nominal and select save. Confirms it can affect your data. So with all of these large processes with regards to reorganizing the system and running potential satisfies and cash book matching, because obviously cash book matching we can't undo, and also amending this option, I would always advise a backup is taken beforehand. Now, once that option's on, what that allows us to do is let's now post a sales ledger invoice. So if we go to action and invoice, so I'm going to keep my nominal posting date as the date that we've got in the system and create an invoice. So if we have a look at our view, our invoice will now have been posted. And I can see it's actually posted to the ACCO1 sales code, which we set it to, which is actually our nominal ledger K110. So we will now be able to, within nominal maintenance and accounts, find our K110. In period 11, and we have our automatic journals being posted. So it automatically goes through straight away, and we can also in reports and audit trail also have a look at anything that's come through. So if we have a look at our source module, so the sales ledger, we can then see automatically that is showing in our trade debtors as it would with regards to the nominal and the debit and the credit that has been posted. There's our K110 as well for the same value. So it's automatically updating the nominal. There is no then further need for the transfers. So if you do wish everything to hit the nominal straight away, that is certainly an option that is available. And if you would like any assistance or any information further on that topic, please feel free to get in contact or contact our support desk. So thank you very much for staying on board today. Apologies for the sound issues. I hope they weren't too troublesome. I will review the recording of this webinar as well and make sure it's sent out to yourselves if you do need any information. Is there any questions from anybody at all? Great. Well, thank you very much for your time. I hope everyone has a great day, and any problems, please let me know. Thank you very much.